Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. It's been a while since I've had a video out and we've covered a lot of ground in the last few weeks, so I kind of wanted to put a video together that kind of makes some connections and kind of connect some dots for you all. Last week you read about segmenting, this week you're reading about coding, and before too long you're going to be off and running and working on your own project. So I wanted to talk about segmenting and a little bit about coding in the context of a specific example, because you all are going to be getting into that phase of your projects shortly after spring break. As I mentioned, I'm working on a project where I'm looking at the mentions of the word faculty in institutional accrediting standards. I know, it's very boring, it's very lame, but let me kind of set the stage for you and kind of describe things a little bit so you know some of the context about my project. So there are 6 institutional accreditors in the United States: the Middle States Commission, the New England Commission, the SACS, the Southern Association Commission, the Higher Learning Commission, which accredits Shawnee State University and a ton of other institutions, Western States, and the Northwest Commission. Institutional accreditors tell the U.S. Department of Education that a university meets the standards for accreditation. And then the U.S. Department of Ed says, awesome, you can now receive federal funding in terms of student aid or grants or loans. I'm curious what role these accrediting agencies describe for faculty members. Are there trends in how they describe the role of faculty in accreditation? So my research question is something like this: how do U.S. institutional accreditors describe the role of faculty in their accreditation standards? I know, it's riveting, but it's something that I got interested in because a couple years ago, I was Shawnee State University's Faculty Senate President, and then I transitioned into a role where I'm closely involved with the university's accreditation efforts. I'm the accreditation liaison with the Higher Learning Commission. So it's something that I'm kind of thinking about. What do they think of faculty? What are these standards, or how do these standards describe faculty? In the terms of the text I'm analyzing, I'm going to look at the accreditation standards of the 6 institutional accreditors. And let me show you a couple. So here they are. I recommend that you keep the text that you're going to analyze all in one place. And when you actually get into segmenting and coding, you copy these over. So there's always a clean copy of the text that you're going to analyze, and then another copy that you can kind of dive into, highlight, move things around. I think it's important to always have something that you can go back to in case a file goes weird or something like that. So here are the 6, and there's PDF versions, and then there's Word document versions, because it's easier to do word counting and things like that, and I'll show you that here in a sec why I wanted that. So all the accreditation standards are here. Let me show you one. This is the Higher Learning Commission's accreditation standards. So after kind of reading through these accreditation standards a few times, thinking about my research question, tinkering with that research question, kind of the steps of the process that you guys are in right now, I had to decide on what I'm going to segment in the text. My research question, again, is about how the accrediting agencies describe faculty. So the word faculty, instructor, educator is a good starting point. I'm then interested in how these documents describe a faculty member, instructor, or educator. And when I think of description, I'm thinking about adjectives and modifiers used to describe faculty, and I'm thinking about the kinds of actions they envision faculty engaging in. So I'm going to segment the text by mentions of the word faculty, or instructor, or educator. The accreditation documents usually have a standard and then subcomponents. Like here, Higher Learning Commission, they have 5 criteria, but then they have a core component and then these subcomponents here. So I'm going to use a Control F search for the word faculty, educator, and instructor. Let me do that. Control F, faculty, and now it's highlighted all the times that the word faculty is mentioned. So I do that for all of the accreditation standards. I also did this for instructor and educator, but in all the accreditation standards, faculty is the word. They're pretty consistent about using the word faculty. So I didn't see much reference to the words instructor or educator. So we're just going with the word faculty. So what I'm going to do now that I have all the words, all the mentions of the word faculty in this document, and I actually did this from a Word document, it's a little bit easier, but we'll go with the PDF here. So I've got all the mentions of the word faculty, so I would just go take this, highlight it, Control C to copy it, and then I'm going to put it in a spreadsheet where I can do some other things, and I'll show you that here in just one sec. So this is the spreadsheet where I'm keeping all the mentions of the word faculty. So I paste it in over here on the text. I note what page it's on. I note the location so that if I want to go back to it, I can. I mention the criterion the word is mentioned in. There's a column here for code. And then I keep a track of how many mentions and then which accreditor is it coming from. You can kind of see the tabs down here. This is just the Higher Learning Commission. I also did this with the Southern Association, Middle States, New England, Northwest, blah, blah, blah. And then I copy them all, and I put them in the all mentions, so I have them all here. This is where I'm going to code, because I don't want to see what accreditor it's coming from. I just want to mix them up, kind of randomly assign them, and there's different ways that you can do that. I might highlight it and then sort by alphabetize them, which would create a pretty random order there, and then, which I think is what I did here. Yep. And then I will go in, and then this is where I code. Now I haven't coded these yet, but I will when you all are in this part of the your projects after spring break. Using Excel allows me to sort, which is one of the reasons I really like being able to use Excel. So I might have like 7 or 8 different codes going on, probably more than that, and then I can just kind of sort on that column. This must be your version of a nightmare, having a 40-year-old explain technology to you, sorry. But I can code, but I can sort by the code down here. So I can kind of decide, all right, I just want to look at the mentions of this code. And then I can start kind of analyzing and start coming up with some findings. So you don't have to use Excel. You could use a word processor and highlighters. That is totally fine. You saw that I did that in the project I did with Tyson Trinidad a few weeks ago. I just like being able to use Excel because I can do things. The sorting feature is really kind of nice. I also kind of keep an overview of all the standards and the faculty mentions. I kept the word count. I do nerdy stuff like how many times per on average, how many times is the word faculty mentioned. So you can do kind of weird stuff like that. And also kind of keeping track of where the data's at. And the key point that I want to get across here is that the research question drives a lot of the decision making here. So if you have a good research question, it's a foundation that helps you make a lot of other decisions. You kind of think through what choices you have and what choices you should make when you're conducting your research. You definitely have constraints around time and how much energy you can put into it. We're going to take that into consideration when you choose how much text you're going to analyze. But the research question kind of should force you to make some decisions over others. Why look at the word faculty in the project that I'm working on? Well, because that's what I'm curious about. That's what my research question states. Why look at nouns and modifiers? Because in the research question, I'm talking about description. I might find when I code that there might be other parts of speech besides modifiers and verbs that are doing something interesting around the word faculty, and so I might open up what I'm going to take a look at, what I'm going to segment. I might restrict it a little bit if I find that there's just too many codes and too many things for me to kind of focus on. So you practice it a little bit. So far in the practice run that I've done with some of these data, verbs and modifiers seem to be working out pretty good. It seems like it's mostly going to be verbs. But you test it out a little bit, see if it's right, and then you make a decision. But again, you make that decision in light of your research question. This week we're going to practice segmenting and coding. We're going to read and watch a video of a very public apology. It's a very strange speech. It's a half apology maybe. You decide. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think about it. We're going to watch and analyze portions of Ted Kennedy's speech about the incident in Chappaquiddick. It's a fascinating speech. It's an infamous speech. I'm going to pose a research question. I'm going to ask us to segment portions of the text, and I'll ask you to practice doing some coding. And we'll talk about what we learned from our codes. So that's it for this video. Except to say that I've created an assignment in Blackboard that is just about watching this video. Like all you have to do is kind of respond to what I'm going to ask you to do in just a couple seconds. To get credit for this, I want you to email me and tell me a joke. It can be a lame joke. It can be a pun. You can Google it. I don't care. Make it clean, please. But I'll start. Knock, knock, to which you say, who? And I will say, to, and you will say, to who? And then I will say, oh, don't you mean to whom? Because everybody knows in a prepositional phrase, use the objective pronoun. Sorry about that. Have a great week. We'll talk to you guys soon.